was brought up going to church and different churches. My dad was a Salvation Armist, and my mum, Church of England. I sometimes ask myself, why are we going? We read the Bible, but that was it. No explanation or no help. About 5 years of my teenage years, I didn't go to a church. But then I felt the need. I need to start going.
In my early days, baptism was adult baptism. And for babies, it was christening. And because where I belonged in Elstow, they was very anti-Anglican, they wouldn't christen babies because it was an Anglican rite. And so therefore anything which touched on the Anglican faith was, taboo. So I was never christened, but I was blessed to think many years later, when I was with my wife and we visited the Holy Land, we were baptised in the River Jordan by a Methodist minister.
Because I'd been brought up as a Catholic, there was a lot of guilt going on. A lot of if you miss Mass, you'd have a mortal sin on your soul. So I had a lot of guilt. And the minister at the Church of England church next to our house, we started going there. And I spoke to him about it, and he made me realise, which is now linking to John Bunyan, that you can lay your burden down. We all do things that are wrong, but that's not good for you, and you can lay your burdens down at the cross. And so that was a big moment when I actually felt it almost shift off my shoulders.
But it didn't really become completely personal, I suppose, until I went to university and went to the Christian Union in particular and shared some different experiences of faith with some people who'd come from completely different church backgrounds, very charismatic church backgrounds in some cases. So I was learning all about new styles of worship and praying out loud and all that sort of thing. So I say I didn't fully become a Christian until university, although I was confirmed when I was with the Methodist Church.
My family are Hindu, but I attended Catholic school. So I was brought up with Catholicism and Hinduism together, and I went to the temple and also to church and had Mass in school.
Well, I grew up here as a Christian in the church, and then God spoke to me to come to him and worship him. I was dedicated here. The first time I attended a service was right back in 1989.
I joined Bunyan Meeting in 1934 in Mill Street. My parents left the church at Elstow to come here to join the choir, so they brought me with them.
We're next door neighbours with Chris, so he invited us down for the children's family service, which I hadn't taken them to church yet. We just prayed at home. So they come because I wanted them to have a religious element out of school, because the school doesn't really push it. They don't have Mass or say prayers like I used to. So we came here, and we've been to pretty much most of the services over the last few years.
We came here as a family one Sunday, and we hadn't been before, I think, and I wanted to come back the next week because it was really fun, because I enjoyed going to Sunday school.
I found that the way of the service we're leading, the way it come over to me, I felt this is what I want. The hymns, the sermon. It was nice, it was quiet, it is peaceful, this is what I'm looking for. And then I stayed. This was in 1966.
Didn't really know much about the church at all before I came here. I remember I was in the town centre one Sunday when I decided to sort of stay settled in Bedford, just looking for a church to go to on a Sunday morning. And I remember just going down the high street and turning the corner, coming down Mill Street, and just seeing the doors open, lots of people going in, and I thought, well, let's try this. And that's how I first came here.
Well, my husband, he knew a lot about like nonconformists, and he knew a lot about John Bunyan. I must admit, I didn't as much, and I would never have come in here without him. When we moved into town, the same minister I was telling you about said to us, when you go to another church, go to the one nearest your home. That's really what you should try to aim to do. So we moved in down on the embankment, and we were walking up here Mill Street, and Chris said to me, "What about that church?" And you're going to be a bit horrified by my response, because I said, "That's not even a real church." It was about 1995, 96. And there was a service in the evening. Chris said, "Why don't we give it a try?" So I went, "Okay." So I came in, and that was it. And it was so welcoming. And I thought, yes, this is okay. This is a church. They're doing the same kind of things. So yes, so I was prejudiced.
I thought that everyone was really welcoming, and that I could just ask them anything really, and I could just talk to them because they were just kind.
Just how welcoming it was, and no one didn't interrogate us, or didn't make us feel uncomfortable, or what are you doing here, that kind of, or we haven't seen you before. So just the welcome really, and the people are very friendly and nice, and religion wasn't pushed on us, which and the children really liked it.
Found quite a few people friendly here.
Peter Prothero was the minister when I first arrived, and I remember him being very welcoming, and also struck by his preaching, how clear it was, and how he managed to weave in all sorts of anecdotes and entertaining stories to keep your attention during the sermon.
Light of mine. A light bulb that's walking and dancing. Wrote things about Jesus on a paper leaf and then hang it up.
When I first came, there was a main service, and then they checked the children off to Sunday school, but now they've changed it to Christ Coffee and Croissants, so we all do the activities at the church, with the service going on, and we do the activities here, so yeah, it's really nice.
We normally come to the family service on a Sunday at 9:30, and it centres around the children, and hence with the light bulb, and gently kind of introduces themes of Christianity to them and relates it to real life.
And because it was a coincidence that my grandfather, he was the superintendent of the morning Sunday school. Because there was no morning service, not as such, not for adults. There was the only service in the day on a Sunday for adults was evening. Because there again, you see, we're going back to years when the nonconformists were not allowed to meet to worship, to challenge the Anglican Church. So naturally, most chapels always met in the evening. They didn't meet in the morning.
I remember being struck when I first came in by the choir, actually, because in the Methodist Church, my background was, that's not really a big thing to have a choir, and certainly not of the standard that we have here at Bunyan Meeting. And just the way the music was done with the choir introit, and then the anthem as well. I remember the anthems were powerful. There was a mixture of old and often more contemporary songs as well. And I remember they were a key part of the service for me in terms of having a bit of a time for reflection.
When Chris or you or a visiting preacher comes, sermons always have true meaning and meat on them, this has relevance, and seem to be within my grasp, not something impossible I'm never going to achieve.
Minister, I think, I do quite like Chris. I liked singing as well, joining in with it.
That everyone's accepting, kind, and they'll help you. And I think the best thing is just knowing that you can go to someone if you have a worry or if you want to talk. I think that's like a really good thing.
One of the great sources of strength and encouragement is the small Digging Deeper house group that we have, which meets sort of roughly once a month or so. We do a whole series of different studies and social activities as well, and that's really lovely as a kind of source of friendships within the church. But also it's lovely to have, as I mentioned earlier, not just the people of my age, but people, older people as well, to learn from their experience. And it's just amazing sometimes to look at them and think how energetic they are and how much time they put into the church.
If I said, put it in common parlance, it's a battery charging exercise. Whenever I come to Bunyan Meeting, I go home uplifted. If I say dozens and dozens of people who influence me in the Bunyan Meeting, are very kind to me, and the whole thing is like a big family.
I still come away feeling refreshed and like keeping things in proportion. And I mean, some of the preaching is very, very good indeed.
I'll always continue coming here and being a Christian no matter what.
I will try and encourage as much as I can people to come in, just come and see what we do. And then it's just like tasting a bit of it and then tell us what it tastes like.
Life in general was like sitting on a three-legged stool, and the three legs of the stool, one represented the mental side, the spiritual side and the physical side. And if you take any one of those three legs away, double over.
Really just to keep faithful and hopeful, and like in the Bunyan story.
One lovely thing that we've done for a number of years, and we've just changed as we've gradually gone through, is to engage with people in the street. So we used to give out mince pies and hot cross buns. We've since adjusted that to giving out vouchers. So it means that there's a voucher for the coffee shop for a mince pie or a hot cross bun and a hot drink, and just to encourage people to come into the church for the first time. And that's been fantastic. So I'd say one of the highlights of the year, really, because you meet so many different people coming past the church on their day-to-day walk into town.
Perhaps to try this church out, if they wanted to leave their other church.
I said I recommend this church highly because they include everyone, and it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, how old you are, what you like, what you dislike, they will just, the door's always open, you can just come in.
Just a thank you really to everyone with the church, because the church looks to run itself when I know it doesn't. There's always a committee and there's always, people behind the scenes to run every event.